after he openly pouted in a post-game press conference after they got spanked by the Lakers on Tuesday. And his now former teammates openly questioning his commitment and the disrespect that they felt on the way out. Here are the details of the trade, which was broken by Adrian Wojnarowski and Ramona Shelburne. Nets get Harden from the Rockets, plus a 2024 second from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Their new Big Three has a combined 24 All-Star selections. Rockets received two-time All-Star Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, and Rodion Kurucs, plus 4 future first-round picks, 3 of which are headed that way from Brooklyn. The Pacers essentially swap Oladipo for Karis LeVert, underrated bucket getter, played in all dozen games for Brooklyn this season. They also get a second from Houston in 2023. Finally, the Cleveland Cavaliers get Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. Cleveland, the only team who's involved who didn't acquire a pick in the process. So here's what it looks like in graphic form. You've got 7 active players traded Wednesday, a bunch of all-stars, the youngest of whom, not an all-star, but the youngest of the players, was Jared Allen, the 22-year-old moving to Cleveland. In addition to the 4 firsts, Houston also acquired the right to 4 first-round swaps, essentially controlling the rights to 8 first-rounders, 7 of which would be coming from Brooklyn. And we welcome in the man who, along with Ramona Shelburne, broke it, is Adrian Wojnarowski. And Woj, look, it's no shock that this happened after what we saw happen on Tuesday night. But this thing goes warp speed. So take me through what happened once it's clear Houston's got to move them.
Well, I think when James Harden, and start here last night, Scott, when James Harden went to that podium and kind of vocalized and talked about something he really hadn't talked about since he returned this season, about really not wanting to be there anymore, saying it out loud for everybody, saying it was over. He did that, Scott, with the knowledge that talks were gaining momentum and they were escalating, and that Brooklyn and Philadelphia, I think especially Brooklyn yesterday, was really being aggressive. He was trying to push it over the top. I think it may have gotten there even without Harden's words last night. I think the organization felt like they had the kind of deals as good as they were going to get from the teams, who were the most engaged in this. But this has really been over a few days anyway, where it's gotten more serious. And I don't think it's a coincidence, Scott, that for Brooklyn, it coincided with the absence of Kyrie Irving and the uncertainty about his short-term and maybe even long-term future with the Nets.
That's a fascinating subplot, as is the cohesion of what you have. I mean, you've got remarkable talent, but there's a lot involved personality-wise and eccentricity-wise and all the rest of that. For Brooklyn, this has to be a all-in, we win a title or bust, yes?
Absolutely. I mean, they have...
The one guy we know in his soul loves this game and loves to play is Durant. And that's why I find the Nets, I make sure he, above everyone else, is good. Because the other I can deal with, but he loves, appreciate the art, right? Well, Durant likes having the paintbrush in his hand. Woj, as always, wonderful job, and thanks for the time.
Thanks, Scott.
Those Nets in the Garden taking on the Knicks. Nets remain without Kyrie and await the arrival of Harden. Durant averaging just about 30, the highest through 8 games of a season in his career, and it's because he's unguardable. And then you try to stop him, and he throws it up to DeAndre Jordan. Off the steal, the thin man. Easy two. 12 points on 5 of 11 shooting, 4 assists at the break. They lead by 16. Third quarter, Durant, you give it to me, I'll take it. Late third, up 16 again. The mid-range. Sure.
What are the Knicks wearing?
I don't know, Steve. There's a lot of jerseys. I'm old. It's hard for me to keep track of this stuff. I don't know.
Okay.
You're the jersey and shoe guy. Durant, all 3 of these. Finished with 26, 6 assists. Had a dozen in the third. Emmanuel quickly. I believe he said afterwards it was like being just like being in a 2K game. Best player I've ever been on the floor with, the rookie out of Kentucky. Oh, that's okay. Joe Harris.
Has he?
Gets him there. 7 nets in double figures and a new guy coming in. But Durant wasn't quite ready to talk about that new guy just yet.
I heard that's not even finalized yet, so I'll talk about it at another time.
I know you don't want to get into things until they are official, but looking into the past, what was it like to play with James? What do you remember about him as a teammate? Because you have played together.
It was fun.
That's a really clever question.
Good job, Malika.
Well done. She's such a star. All right, so the Nets weren't the betting favorites to win the East before the trade, which isn't official, sitting at plus 250, but that changed immediately afterwards. Plus 120. They're now the favorites over Milwaukee. Brooklyn has the second shortest odds to win the whole thing, behind only the Lakers. Anthony Davis said, "You guys look good on paper. We'll see how it looks when you got to get out there on the floor." And with that in mind, we welcome in our pal Tim Legler. You got stars, man, undeniably so. And I always wonder about puzzle pieces, right? Like they're great puzzle pieces, but do those puzzle pieces fit together, Tim?
Time will tell, but I'll tell you this. When you look at James Harden and Kyrie Irving specifically, and again, look, we don't know when these guys are actually going to play together, but let's assume that all 3 see the court sooner rather than later. When you talk about those 2 players, you're talking about the 2 guys that might be more dribble dependent than any 2 in the NBA. The way they like to get into their action is usually set up with 5, 6, 8, 10 dribbles to get into what they want to do. They're constantly trying to set guys up to get leverage as a scorer or as a playmaker. So when you just start to do the math on that on a given possession, to me, that's going to spell a lot of stagnancy. And it's also going to spell on a given night, guys not having it come their way enough to where they're fully engaged in the right place emotionally, in the right frame of mind. I'm not worried about Kevin Durant. He is going to get his no matter who he plays with, and he's going to get it efficiently, and he should be the guy that they are catering everything to as an organization. And that's not going to be a problem. It's the other 2 guys pairing up together. Because even looking at a guy like Harden with Westbrook, Scott, you know, Harden could penetrate, kick out. Westbrook was so decisive in his catch and attack the gap, get to the rim. Kyrie is the kind of guy, if Harden does that, he wants to catch it, and now he wants to put it down and play with it and show you the package before he gets into his action. So the ability potentially for this to be a very stagnant offense, to be very predictable, with maybe the greatest collection of 3 shot makers any team has ever had in history, is a fascinating thing to think about. I am skeptical that ultimately this is going to be something that's going to be a happy road to go down, but I think you'd be a fool to think the ceiling can't be a championship. Clearly, with that
change teams the season after winning a scoring title as